Welcome to the Political Ferret Show. New content will be uploaded every Wednesday and Sunday. This video was financed by my Patreons. Thank you for making the change possible. As a channel regular, you know that my background used to be far left, then I went over to the centrists, and right now I consider myself a free market environmentalist. But there are some things that I really hated, and this was heritage, because the idea of heritage was always for me that the rich people give their rich brats all their power, all their money, and still people who are not very competent are in power, and this was considered by me and other people in the far left as a big problem in this to this very day. And lately I had an interesting discussion where I had to point out to my discussion partner that there is absolutely no civilization without the inheritment, and I want to break down how I argued this whole case. So in the beginning there is nothing. There is a bit of grass, there might be some trees, there might be a river and some wolves standing around there. There is nothing. This is nature, as we call it, and nature is in its default setting not very nice to humans. It's quite hostile. So some people come over. Let's say there are two families who come over. They cooperate, yes, they work together, but they do not consider themselves, each other, as part of the family. So they have a we idea of a family, but they have also a we idea of the community, but it is not the same thing. So they do not consider them all as part of the same family, which means that if one of the other family and one of their own family is in trouble, they will help the people of their own family in preference. So what do people do when they come over and see a lot of trees, a river and a lot of wolves? Well, they say, we can do something with that, we can improve the situation. We cut down some of the trees and we build some houses. So this is a nice situation because they have no houses. They did not have houses before that, but now they have houses. So and what people then do normally is they get kids, and these kids normally get old, and these kids have it wonderful because they have houses. Their parents before did not have houses, so at one point the parents go away on a natural course and they build a new family, and they have no houses. Since they have time, because they don't have to build new houses because they already inherited houses, they can do something else. And one of the ideas is, well, we get always bitten by these lousy wolves, so let's go over there and kill all the wolves because they make a lot of trouble, and so the wolves are pretty much away. So this is a nice thing because the kids get not so often eaten by wild animals because they killed all the wild animals. So what people then normally do is they get children, and the world for these children is even better because they have a house which their grandfathers did not have, and they have a wolf-free environment which is also quite nice for playing around in the garden. So naturally also these children become older and the old ones go away. So they form new families, and what can they do? Well, they say, oh, there's this place over there that was wolf infested in the past, but right now there are no wolves. We can go over there, cut down some woods and create some farmland and increase the quality of life even more. You see where I get with all of that. So what is the difference between the wolf-infested land in the beginning and the farmland in the end? There are pretty much two different ideas to that. One is it is magic, the other is it is work. The guys who say it is magic are the same people who say, oh, white privilege, the Europeans have it so good because for magic reasons Europe is rich and Africa is poor, and they do not consider that there is a lot of work involved in that. You see, I consider this absolutely a natural cause, and the difference in between them is simply human work. Is always human work. So why do people work? Why do they get up in the morning? Why do they something? Well, there are different reasons for that, why people get up in the morning and work. One of which is simple: I want to survive, and this is very basic, and it is in us all still because we want to eat, and to get something to eat, well, we have to go to work to get some money so we can eat pretty nice stuff. And if we want to have even cooler stuff, well, we have to work a little bit more than we can buy luxury thingies and so on. The next thing is family. I want to improve on my family. I want to give some money to my elders. I want to give some money to my youngs. I want to create an inheritance for my children. And the thing around the children is mostly the biggest part in this whole family thing, but it is way more than just their own kids. A lot of people work very hard to create a better world for the children of their brothers and sisters. And then there is of course helping others, and helping others is of course part of survival in a species that is as interdependent as we are, but it makes sense to point it extra out that we use some of our time to help others. So people now have only so many time and energy as well they have. So you can't say I work 30 hours a day for survival, 60 hours a day for creating cool stuff. You only have 24 hours and only so much energy. So when you are in a situation where you need all your energy just to survive, you can't create anything more. But if you are in a situation where you do not need all of your energy to survive, you can do something with that. You can then say, okay, I create something for my family and I create something that I just enjoy, luxury goods, as for example. In our society, survival takes only a very tiny amount of our time, so we can say we create wonderful things for our children and we can create wonderful things for ourselves. And a lot of people will say, oh, scrap the whole thing with kids, I just live to create a lot of luxury. For me, I drive around the world, I drive 5 different Bentleys and so on. So people can do that in essence. The interesting thing now is that people are different and different people have different amounts of energy. Some people can work 22 hours a day. I don't know how, but they can do that. And other people simply can't do it. So if you have now a set of people and they have different amounts of energies and you have a certain amount you have to work to survive, there will be some people who would need more energy than they are able to put out to even survive. And this is where helping others comes in. This guy over here, he might be blind or something like that. And is in a situation of an agricultural culture and can't help himself because, well, he's blind. So others will take now some energy from the energy they have spare and use it to help others. In a healthy society, which does not mean our society, but a healthy society, those who help the most rise in the popular eye because they are considered as the helpers, as they who take care of others. There are some people who have more energy, let's say so if we take a look to the second and to the fourth guy, the second guy has way more energy, potential energy than the fourth guy, but he thinks, oh, I take not as much energy for helping others, and the other guy takes a little bit more. So also in this case people will say, oh, the fourth guy is the better guy because he takes more of what he can do to help others, so this is my guy. And in the case that the red needs some help, some people might not help him because people consider him as that guy that did not help enough, which is quite interesting. So what inheritance means now is that when people create something that you can touch, like a house or something like that, they can give it to their children. This is what all the people talk about if we talk about inheritance. But what they give also to the next generation is a better world, which means no wolves, for example. They give also things over that are not so wonderful, like pollution or an exploded nuclear power plant. But this is what we give over. You can't as a child not say, I own the wolflessness of the wilderness. It's not the case. You can say, I own this house, I inherited the house, but the thing about the wolves it is something different, but it is way more important. As time progressed, when we killed all the wolves pretty much and had a lot of agriculture, we started to create things for the community. We created temples, we created special houses, monuments, and so on. Those things are not in the hand of people, but in the hands of the community. So when we talk about this, we have a new actor. We have the state or the city or the community or whatever you want to call it. So you still create a house and give this house to your child, but this house is also part of the community of the city, of the town, of the state. It adds to the state. And additional to that, you might have created in part or completely, depending on the situation, something like a hospital by your taxes, or because you were rich and in a society where there were no taxes, and you created a hospital and say, I give this hospital to the people, and the people said, yay, that's the cool rich guy we won't kill in a revolution. So you gave something to the community that then benefits your child, but your child is not in charge of the hospital. It does not own the hospital. It does own the house, but not the hospital. So all the things that gets created in society adds up and adds up and adds up and adds up. So the thing is, not everybody will inherit something. There are some people who live in a rich society and some people who live in a poor society where there are still wolves that gobble up children. So this is unfair, yes, of course. But there are some people who can inherit a house, while on the other hand, some people will inherit absolutely nothing because their parents did drink it all away. And some people who do not inherit anything are living in a rich society, while some people get a lot in a very poor society. All of these combinations are possible. It is unfair to say that all people in a rich society inherit a lot, because a lot of people inherit nothing but debt from their parents, which is rather sad. So socialists of course say, well, we take absolutely everything, all the inheritance of the people, everything that exists in the world gets in one pot, and then we distribute it based on contribution or the needs. Both are a little bit problematic, because who needs the wolf-infested land? Who needs this challenge? Who needs to live in a palace? What is the contribution? What is the contribution of the leader of the glorious party who never worked one day? This is very, very hard to define, and this is pretty much the downfall of every socialist society. But this is something that I talked about so many times, so I will not go into detail, but I will point out that people have this tendency that they do not really care if something is public, but they care very well if it is private. If it is their own, they care especially, but if it is one of their friends, they will care a little bit more and way more as if it is in public. So the first inheritance step, when there was something to inherit, which means in the point where we stopped being nomads, because nomads do not have a lot to inherit, but when you stay on one place, well, you have time and you have place and you do not have to drag the whole thing around. So when we decided to become agricultural, there was something to inherit it, and this was of course all private. It went from one person to another. In the next step it became something that some stuff was part of the community. There was this well that is now part of the community, or this corn locker was now part of the community, or this and that is now part of the community. And this went up and up and up and up. So in some generations there was more that was inherited from person to person, and in some generations they created more temples and so on. And then were there times where there was war, where a lot of the stuff was destroyed. Not just on a property level, but also on a state level, often more on a state level. But people did rebuild, and it works pretty well, until some people came over and said, well, we try to put all the private stuff into state stuff, so we convert this all over. And then we have to think about what happens with the public toilets. People do not care, there's not really a motivation to increase, and these societies become poorer and poorer and poorer, to a certain point where they say, okay, stop that shit, we can't compete with all the others who don't do it that way, so we take all that was in the hand of the state and privatize, and then the whole story starts again and again and again. And that's the thing. When I started my video and pointed out that there is no civilization without heritage, it is not the full truth. The full truth is that civilization is heritage. There would not be anything that we would consider civilization without heritage. It is something that we got because some other people worked. They worked not for a better future. Some of them did, at least to a certain degree, but mostly it was for their own survival. And this resulted in a betterment of the world, a better civilization, a better place to live. So when people work and work hard, they create a better world. And this is important to remember. When people point out that heritage is a bad thing and that some people give to their absolutely stupid child a lot of power, a lot of money, and then are people in charge who are not worthy to be in charge, this is right. But it leads to a situation in which they themselves will not give this money to the next generation. This problem takes one generation to solve itself, and one generation is long, yes, of course, but in the end they get poor because they are incompetent. It takes a lot of energy to hold on to money that you inherited. It is not as easy as a lot of people, especially on the far left, might think. So this is my take on heritage. Tell me what you think about it in the comment section. Am I completely wrong? Is it possible to create a society that works completely without heritage? Is it possible, or might it make sense to burn everything down and start from the very beginning and do this over and over and over again after every generation? Well, discuss it in the comment section, like, share and subscribe, and have a wonderful day.